Good morning and welcome to our HR Bite session this morning. Today we're going to do a quick session on workplace culture and engagement, which I'm sure you all know is this enormous topic, but we've just got 15 or 20 minutes and I'm going to try and give you some nice practical tips about how you may be able to use this in your workplace. So for those who I haven't met, my name is Claire Harrison. I am the Managing Director and founder of Harrison's HR consulting firm, as well as my HR Experts, our new online membership site. So let's get started, given we have a short time together. A disclaimer, we're not giving legal advice, nor are we giving any advice that is specific to your organisation. A little bit about Harrison's. We have 4 key service areas. So consulting is any project that you as a business owner, HR department, HR manager, leader may need help with. That can range from anything from an org change project, workplace investigations, contracts, policies, anything across recruitment across the area. HR team, we describe as being our outsourced in-source service, which is where we will work with normally an SME type business, anything from about 30 to 300, 500. We'll go and do an audit, develop a HR plan, and then we'll allocate a HR manager to implement that plan either on-site or remotely. Recruitment and onboarding is our recruitment service, mainly around professional and managerial roles. And My HR Experts has very excitingly been relaunched just recently. And that is our online membership site that has over 200 tools, templates, plus webinars, plus these recordings, plus Harry, our AI chatbot, that can help you with anything across HR. So the website for that is there, myhrexperts.com.au. So today is about workplace culture and engagement. So I want it to be informative, but also practical to help you take some key steps back to your workplace. So we want it to be around, it's about we're going to talk about employee voice, surveys, interviews, how you plan to build culture, and then some actionable tactics for you to take. Okay, so from who I can see that it's online, I'm sure at uni or wherever else, we all know about the definition of culture, which is the how things are done around here. So it's not necessarily what the policies say or your employment contract, it's the conversations that people have, the way that people are treated, the interactions, it is the policies, it is leadership, it is communication, it is a huge range of topics and aspects that all come together to create your workplace culture. And as again, I'm sure we all know, culture is not something that can be changed overnight. It requires a concerted effort and plan and behavioural change often to get you to the point of the culture that you're looking for. Engagement is about the connection, the energy, and the commitment of people to work together with their colleagues, with their manager, and with the organisation. We talk about those 3 levels of engagement. So the benefits of why culture and engagement is important, I probably don't have to tell the people online because you're here, but I will just quickly say is that there's definitely research and a load of it that points to having a great culture, high levels of engagement will lead to higher customer client loyalty, which ultimately leads to higher productivity and profit for organisations. So strong brand, strong reputation, so culture and engagement critical to those aspects in any organisation. Okay, so like I said, we could do days in terms of training on culture and engagement. So I've just selected a few areas that I think may be useful for you that we use here at Harrison's that you'll be able to apply to your own organisations. The first one is about employee voice. So we start off with surveys. So surveys, employee engagement surveys, you may call them, satisfaction surveys, culture surveys, whatever they may be, are really good at getting at the moment time feedback from your employees, from your workforce in terms of their experience working at your organisation. I understand and appreciate they're just in the moment. That's why ultimately we do an annual thorough employee engagement survey, but we also look to do those pulse checks very regularly, at least monthly, if not more frequently, in terms of just checking in key components. That might just be one question, but what we want is to be regular, getting that feedback to get the temperament of how people are feeling so that we can adjust what we're doing as an organisation around our culture and engagement. So for those that don't know it, we use the Gallup Q12 questions in our employee engagement surveys that we do with clients, as well as some other questions as well. We try to only keep it to 20 questions, but the Gallup Q2 questions are proven, researched around supporting employee engagement and the best measures to use. So strongly recommend you looking at them if you haven't. We do also use and recommend the employee Net Promoter Score. So like we use for the customer experience, you go to a restaurant or wherever you might go and you get that rating out of 10 in terms of would you recommend this cafe to anyone, and that scale of 10. So we do the same for employees. So I definitely recommend an eNPS is something that you can monitor over time in terms of your improvement. So but the important part in gathering any of this data is the analysis of it, but then more importantly is feeding it back to your employees. They want to know that we've heard them and that we're going to take some action. It doesn't mean we need to action all of the feedback, but they do need to know that we've heard and we have considered and we are going to make some changes on the basis of their feedback. That helps to build trust, which is the key component of employee engagement. And it means that next time when you're asking questions that you will get more people respond and more people respond more honestly. I think we also do need to respect if you're saying the information is confidential, keeping it confidential. Unfortunately, we have had horror stories of where organisations have run their own internal engagement surveys, and then we have a CEO or a manager go and point to that person is, I know you said this in the engagement survey, and why did you say this? That just completely goes against trust and culture and engagement. So be careful about that. So employee voice. So finding ways that you can solicit feedback from your team. So values and behaviours. Behaviours are a key component to culture. Culture is basically the values and behaviours and how they are demonstrated within your organisation. So one is we need values. So if you don't have values, they need to be developed for your organisation. Second to that are the behaviours, which are how we go about delivering on those values. So if you don't have behaviours, then strongly recommend that you do that. We often do them, develop them with clients by doing workshops where we look at each of the values. We have people in teams. It's really good to do storytelling about when one of those values has been demonstrated, and from that, picking out the behaviours that are being demonstrated, because we want the behaviours, one is to align with the values, but also to be really specific and relevant to your people, not just a generic set of behaviours. Another good way to do behaviours is the above the line, below the line. So when we are demonstrating the value, what does that look like? Versus when we're not demonstrating that value, what does that look like? Because what we want to do is to make those values really clear for employees to understand, okay, so if I'm going to deliver on this value for my organisation, this is what that looks like. So getting those values and behaviours in place, and then implementing. They're not just that little picture on the wall of my values with pretty images. They need to be implemented. So that means when you're recruiting, you're using it for cultural fit. So you're asking questions, behavioural-based questions against your values. You're using it in the onboarding process about how you embed people in your culture and talking to those. You're using it in performance reviews. So performance reviews are not just about the KPIs and the outcomes and the what, they're most importantly, or just importantly, about the behaviours that people are demonstrating and how they align to the values, because behaviours support values, values build your culture. So, and often more difficult to give feedback around values and behaviours, but that's why we need to make them concrete as possible, because it is behavioural and subjective. Recognition, we need to be really clear on living our values, and that means recognising people that are living our values and bringing our behaviours to life. And most importantly, if we have a gun salesperson that is delivering on their targets, but not our behaviours and being destructive around the culture, then we need to be really clear that that person does not get recognised, and that is a difficult decision often. But if we are going to build the culture that we want and engagement and the values, then we need to be clear on our decision making around our values. So that's values and behaviours. If you don't have that in place, then I strongly recommend that you get onto that. So the other thing I would say is a good way in terms of getting feedback in terms of where your culture and engagement is at is not just exit interviews, and hopefully everyone's doing exit interviews. We do them often for clients as an objective party and report on that. But what we also do, and I recommend that you all do, is the stay interviews and entry interviews. So entry interviews are capturing those early impressions of your onboarding process and how people are feeling at that critical 90-day point. So someone, not the manager ideally, sitting down and just, using questions to solicit information on how the new employee is going, what could be improved, are there any blockers, because that 90 days is critical to engagement. And then stay interviews, the random selection of employees every month, quarter, whatever it might be, similar to an engagement survey, but you're sitting down one-on-one with someone to check in on their engagement with the organisation. So what we need to do from that is turn in, the quick wins, what can we immediately fix because we've got this information, but also looking at the trends for that long-term strategic positioning on our culture and people, and regular theme tracking on that. So just as a case study, so an organisation we worked with, they were in the allied health sector. They have multiple sites, a few hundred employees. So they wanted really, deeper insights into their engagement. So we were contracted to work with them on doing their stay interviews. So there was a cross section of employees randomly selected each quarter that we would do stay interviews with, and then we would report back on the themes and some recommendations. So for them, it resulted in that higher engagement, reduced turnover, and stronger trust and leadership, which was an issue for them at that point in time. But I think it's just another way of soliciting information from our people, because if we don't have the feedback and the data, then we can't do anything, and we're operating in that silo. So just thinking about how you could use entry interviews, stay interviews, and of course your exit interviews, which are useful, but obviously reactive. Okay, so just some really basic practical engagement tactics. So just that micro recognition, which links back to one of the questions that we use out of Gallup is, so one of the questions is, did you receive praise or thanks in the last 7 days? So that doesn't mean we come in and say, thanks team, thanks to everyone, great job. It's finding those micro moments of when someone has delivered a great report or they've helped someone out, that you can pull that up in the moment. I noticed that you did that. Thanks very much for that. That was really useful. Or when you did that presentation yesterday, what I really liked about that was blah, blah, blah. So finding those micro recognition moments, that regular feedback, so that regular constructive in the moment feedback. So not waiting for a quarterly, monthly, annual review, is that in the moment, okay, so when you did that presentation yesterday and you did this, that was fabulous. When you did the presentation yesterday and you spoke about this data, I noticed that it was, a year old and that's not useful, or whatever it might be, as an example. But giving that feedback in the moment rather than saving it up. The stop, start, continue is also a really good process to use. One is one-on-one, but also definitely with your teams. Employee voice channels, so thinking about how you can get that feedback. We've talked about a few ways, but you can also have culture champions, suggestion boxes or inboxes, listening posts and open door policies all help to create that employee voice across the organisation. Leadership visibility. So we want our leaders to be visible. They need to be talking with their people. They need to be demonstrating the values and the behaviours. So just thinking about, just quick in the chat, because we've got like 2 minutes left. Which of these tactics does your organisation currently use effectively? Or any other suggestions that you have that we could take on board? I see some typing happening. I'll keep continuing and we can all have a look in there. So key takeaways, it needs to be measurable and it needs to be actionable. Thanks, Jen. Yes, great, wonderful. The winning form is so regular listening, clear values, visible action in your behaviours, and that creates the stronger workplace culture and engagement. Data-driven decisions, really important for us HR people, is to be gathering the data and the analytics to use as the basis for our decisions and planning moving forward. And that consistent small actions, you know, I'm a huge fan of daily huddles, but those in the moment feedback, all of those little things are what creates your culture and can make that transformation happen over a longer period of time. So next step for you is thinking about what's one action that you can take today or tomorrow to strengthen the culture at your workplace. Again, if you want to just pop that in the chat and maybe share and give someone else some ideas. How Harrisons can help. As I mentioned, we do facilitate employee engagement surveys. We deliver the values and behaviours workshop, which is very much around helping to strengthen those behaviours or develop them if that's needed. We can independently conduct those entry, stay and exit interviews for you, conduct a cultural assessment. My first book here is The CEO's Secret Guide, which talks about managing and motivating employees. And I strongly encourage you to go and check out My HR Experts and see how that will help you. But that's our contact details. I'm at 19 minutes, so I think I've done pretty well. I thank you for your time and hope you have a wonderful day. I'm Claire Harrison. Thank you.